Woohoo!
Hello, my sewing friends. I'm Jen, and this is Friday Sews, when we talk about sewing and life. And with me, you get a little bit of Jesus at the end. So let's talk about sewing. I finished up Simplicity 8057. This is from 1992, and I did it in a cotton batik. It's navy background with sunflowers, and the sunflowers are gold. And of course, the batik effect made it just very autumny, I thought. So the thing I love about this dress are the style lines. It has kind of a princess seam coming out of the shoulder, and then the sleeve is like a grown-on sleeve, where it's all one piece that comes down. I did the short-sleeved version. There is also a long-sleeved version, and you can put ties in the back or not. I did. After my husband said, well, it needs a little more shape, so I thought, okay. Well, with regard to these style lines, I was going to use piping to define them a little better, but I tried that and I'm not sure if the bias tape was too stiff or it was the cording and the bias tape made it too heavy, but it just was too much. I like like the seam was misshapen and I didn't like that at all. So I decided I would go in with just plain bias tape and do it that way. So what you see is the fold of the bias tape coming out. And the way I did that was, since I only take 1/2 inch seam allowances, I cut the bias tape to 3/4 of an inch. And then I went in and basted it along the seam line and I stitched it at 1/2 inch, which is my seam allowance. But I did it in white thread so it would show up. And then when I went to put the pieces together, I pressed my bias tape to the right side, the correct side, and then I went in and followed that line of basting and I got it exactly right. And the thing was, if I hadn't done that, then, and I just tell you this because I didn't do it, and then I went back in and took it all out and did it the way I just told you. When I didn't do it that way, it was not working because some places the bias tape was wider on the outside, some places it was more narrow. By basting it, I got a solid 1/4 inch of the bias tape showing, which was perfect. I also did it along the waistline and also in the back. So really defined those lines really well. And it's very flattering, I think, because of it. I only did a 3-inch hem this time, no 6-inch hems. And that was because the skirt is curved. And I knew that. And when you go to fold it up, unless it's just squares, you run into problems with, it basically being longer at the bottom than it is at the place where you're turning it up to hem it. I hope that makes sense. So I ran a line of gathering around and I just kind of eased it, So that got finished up. After that, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I had Simplicity 3640. I made this and I made the pants first, and they are perfect. I love these pants. They fit, they go together well with the jacket, or they did. I'll get to that in a minute. But beautiful color, but it's a very unique color. I got this at Joann's, and it was part of a liquidation sale that was happening with a store that was moving. It wasn't going out of business, it was just moving. And so this was part of that sale, and I got a ton of fabric, and this was one of them. It's a ponte. I think it's a rayon ponte, and it is a funny color. None of the royal blues made match this color. This is just a little darker, a little more muted, a little more purple, take your pick. But anyway, so I had cut the jacket, put it together, and it was too small. And I couldn't find a zipper the right color. And that, I overthought that and kind of fussed in my head over it and thought, what am I going to do? I thought about putting an insert of white along the front princess seams, because this is princess seamed. But the problem with that is I always drop the apex or a bust dart or a princess seam, where it comes out the most, the furthest that it sticks out in the front, your apex. I always lower that by an inch because inevitably patterns, big 4 patterns, or cut so that it's too high. Maybe it's because they're done for a B cup and I'm a C, and I've had 5 kids, and I'm also ancient. So I always have to drop that. And I didn't. I didn't do that with this. I had thought it's a size 12, and that's as high as the pattern went. So I thought, well, okay, I'll take less of a seam allowance and it'll be fine. Well, no, it was not fine because it was too small. So I had thought I would go in and do, the inserts in both the sets of princess seams in the back and in the front. And then I thought, no, I don't want to do that because that thing doesn't fit. I didn't drop that princess line, the apex. So what happens when I don't do that is I get a whole lot of extra fabric between my apex and my shoulders, and it wrinkles, it looks terrible. And so I thought, okay, maybe I can deal with that. Maybe I can fix that somehow. So I went back in after I pulled it out, and I took 1/4 inch seam allowances. Now this is the width of your serger seams. I thought, okay, well, we'll try it. So I stitched all the seams at 1/4 inch. It fit this way, but I was getting all these drag lines along where the armhole attached, not attached, well, yeah, attached to the sleeve, and then came in towards the princess seam. Drove me crazy. So I went in and I tried to trim down the top of that princess seam. No, that doesn't work. And so I went back in, and since the armhole was feeling kind of high, I dropped that an inch, and then I cut the armholes in. I thought, well, maybe that'll do it. Well, no, it didn't. So I asked my sewing sisters, and they said, well, it's very wearable. And I thought, yeah, but I wasn't happy with it. And I ended up putting in the zipper, no problem, putting in the hood, but those lines on that seam, right there, were just driving me crazy. And then I went to top stitch the zipper, and this fabric was sliding all over the place. I hand basted it. I pinned it, along where I should. Again, I must have stitched and taken that out 4 times, and it drove me bananas. And then I had to hem where the zipper came down and get that even because it didn't go all the way to the end. After the 4th time of trying to top stitch that zipper, I just gave up. No. I was so frustrated. And I was especially frustrated because it looks so good on. If it fit, it would look fabulous, magnificent, because it's a fitted jacket. And it just looks so classy with the pants. Drove me crazy. Okay, well, in the end, I got so mad that I threw it in the trash. I didn't even take the zipper out to use again. I just thought, no, I'm so done with this. I'll buy another zipper. I'm so done with this thing. So I went online and I ordered some Ponte. It was the right color. It was the royal blue that this is not. Close, but it's not. And I have another fabric that I can make a jacket for this, but I wanted that monochromatic look, and I loved the royal blue. I could have done it in black, that would have been fine, but it wouldn't have had the punch that the royal blue has, and no other fabric would have worked for me. I mean, maybe it's just that I saw it in the royal blue. I don't know, but I got more fabric. And after this didn't fit the first time, I went in and retraced it and enlarged it to a size 14. I did it the cheater's way. I used the other size lines and just added kind of that much on. And then I went in and I measured, and then I measured again, and then I measured again. And so I'll probably go in and make some kind of a muslin just so that I don't ruin another, piece of fabric. But I think I've got it. And to be honest, I wouldn't even do that, but I like this so much. It's just going to look so great when it's done correctly. So that's the story of that. The fabric should be here by the 14th of November, and I'm leaving on the 18th to go up north. So, gosh, wouldn't it be great if I could get it done and then wear it? Well, I don't know because I'm going to make the pants the same color as the fabric that's coming. So, we'll see. Then I was so frustrated with that. I thought, I've wanted to make a rag quilt for a while. And I thought, I have two daughters that are very tactile. And I thought that would be so perfect for them because you fray the edges and it gets really soft and everything. So I went over to my quilt shop and picked out all these colors and conversation. And I said, I'm going to make a rag quilt. And they said, no, that's not going to fray. This is batik. It's not going to fray because inevitably I get the batik. Why is that? It's because it's so pretty. So I thought, well, shoot. They said, you need flannel. So even though I don't like doing it, I went over to Hobby Lobby and I found some flannel. I did not find flannel that I especially loved, but I found some flannel. And I got like 4 pieces of it. And I only used 2 because it just looked better with 2. So it looks like this. I sewed it together, but I have not clipped into it, which is a story that I'll tell you about. But yeah, I did it this way. I didn't want squares. I didn't want squares. I wanted strips because I thought, well, that looks infinitely easier. And it was. It was really easy. I do not know how I'm going to bind the outside edges. If I'm going to, can I just stitch them and clip them? Leave it at that? I don't know. If you've done this before, please do tell me because I am unsure. I don't know, but I don't know. I might do that. That's probably the path of least resistance. I can't find any of my scissors that will clip into these edges. And that's what you have to do. You have to clip into all of these raw edges because there are 6 layers of fabric here. I just used all flannel. So I used the outside as one color, the next inner layer, which would be batting normally, I used another layer of flannel. And then on the back, I used this pink dot that I just had. And so that's another layer of flannel. So when you put these seams together, you've got 6 layers here. And regular scissors, even sharp scissors, that's hard to get through them, that many layers. And so I looked at some YouTube tutorials and they said, you need something with springs because you end up doing this so much, your hand gets really tired. And I thought, well, okay, I'll try it with scissors I have. And I literally tried almost every single pair of scissors I had. I have little Ginger embroidery scissors. I have some other trimming scissors. Trust me when I tell you, I have many pairs of scissors and I tried them all and none of them worked except for these. Do you see these? These are monsters, monster scissors. They scare me. I'm a little afraid of them, but they're sharp. And you know what? That little tip right there, that gets through everything. I've hardly used them. I think I found them on Temu. I don't know. It's not that they're bad scissors. They're really sharp, but I'm just afraid I'm going to stab myself doing this. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I looked at the snips that were recommended on YouTube by several people that have done rag quilts, and I thought, well, maybe I'll do that. I don't know. I may see. I don't want to get into it and start doing it with those monster scissors and then hurt myself by the snips. I don't know. We'll see. So anyway, that is the quilt, which has to be washed. So off it goes. I, a while ago, thrifted a little white sundress. It had shirring in the back and it's tiered and it's kind of a double gauze. And it was so comfortable. And I thought, I don't want that as a sundress because it had spaghetti straps and the whole, I don't know, it was very young looking for me. And I thought, well, I need a white skirt. So I'm going to turn it into that. So I did. It was so incredibly easy. All I did was the front, of course, it was the bodice of the dress. So I measured up and folded back however much I wanted. I cut it and I finished the edge, folded it under, and stitched it. And that was it. No kidding. No kidding. I went back in on the front and I put in a 1-inch piece of elastic because I thought this is comfortable, but if I put anything in the pockets, it has pockets. If I put anything in these pockets, it's going to drag the skirt down and I don't want it falling off of me. So I tightened it up that way, but easy, easy, so incredibly easy. All I did was cut it and fold it and done. So simple. So now I have a little white skirt to wear and it's comfortable, especially because it's double gauze and it's not lined. So I kind of have to wear a slip with it because it's kind of sheer, but I'm okay with that. I have slips, so win. So I showed you my dyed dress that I made from 3 different things. I made it from some knit. It had a tank top knit and then a cotton sheet for the skirt. And then on the bottom, it had a ruffle, which is a bed skirt from Eyelet, an Eyelet bed skirt. Well, I dyed the dress because I wanted it the color of jeans thread. And I did not get there. And the top of it was just brown, didn't look good. So I went in this morning and I put in a whole, I used boxes of a regular dye, whereas previously I had used Rit Dye More in the bottles. So I went in with a box of orange, a box of gold yellow, and I came out with this. I thought, well, I'll go over top of what was done before and just see what happens. So I came out with this, which is exactly the color I wanted. The only thing about this is the eyelet is kind of, I don't even know what to call that, lime green. I don't know. I'm not sure if I care. Not sure. But this was a fun experiment, especially since I got the color I wanted, at least on the top, even though the top is little of what you see when I wear it with this vest. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I think I'm going to go back over to the quilt shop and see if I can find some batik in this color and just make the whole thing over again and keep this because I can wear it just fine. But if I do like that dark gold, I can take my spool of thread with me and I can look at the exact colors that I want. And somebody else has done the dyeing for me. And in the meantime, I don't know, I kind of played around with the idea of dumping this in a vat of gold. I don't think really I want to do that. I may just take the ruffle off the bottom. I don't know. I think I'm done with it, actually. I think I'm done playing around with dye, with that at least for the time being. But it's been a really fun experience, especially seeing how each of these things took the dye differently. So yeah, that was fun. I went to the library the other day because I thought, do they have books about rag quilts? Because then I can read about it. No, they did not. They didn't have any quilting books at all. The branch library, which is close to me, nothing. So I looked in the sewing books and oh my gosh, look what I found. I only got 3 books, but I got Tilly and the Buttons, Make It Simple. And this has the patterns. They're in the back. They're in this folder thing in the back. I can take these and trace off the ones I want. And then I found Gertie's new book for better sewing. Again, has patterns in here. Now I've looked through this one. I haven't really spent any time with this or the other one because I just haven't had time to sit down. Mostly I've been stitching out of that infernal jacket. Oh, I'm so glad that's gone. Anyway, I looked through this a little bit and I found a shirt dress that I really liked. And I don't know, I'll probably keep looking and look again, just to make sure that it's kind of like when you flip through a pattern catalog or you look on the website and you think, oh yeah, I like that. And then you go back in and you go, I don't know about that. Or, how did I pass that out? That's so pretty. So with regard to tracing, I don't know, but I have this, and this is a lot of retro looking stuff, like 1930s, 40s. So, yeah, and she's got a lot of technique and history in this book. So, it's really kind of helpful. I mean, it's enough to make me think, do I want to own that book? And the other one, which I haven't even opened yet, is called The Refashion Wardrobe, and it is by um, it's at Upcycle. And I thought I want to look at this, and I don't want to do it in the library because I need to get home. So I picked it up, and we'll see what I find there. I love the library. I love it. And while I was in there, it made me think about how we've had sewing events in there, and just a couple. And I thought, I need to get on that again because there are people on Nextdoor, which is a neighborhood app, who have said, does anybody teach sewing? And I thought, well, you know what? For the holidays, I could schedule one of the conference rooms and just say, hey, let's make a tote bag for a gift or for you or whatever. And we can use Christmas fabrics. And I don't know, I thought that sounded kind of fun. So I have to think about it a little more. I'm gone a lot. And people are busy in December, but might be nice to just kind of take a little bit out of a day or an evening and just say, I think I want to, yeah, maybe meet with some friends and make a tote bag. I know it's a simple project, and that's why I thought that. Up next, Christmas, which leads me into life because 'tis the season. Man, it's coming up fast, isn't it? It's going to be right upon us before we even blink. So I'm thinking about Christmas gifts. I have two in mind, basically, two more rag quilts. And especially since that one was an experiment. So now I know I can do it. I may want to do one with the squares like the traditional rag quilt is done. And I know I want to make pajama pants for everybody. And that would be 9 people. Whew, it's a lot of pajama pants. But I have this pattern, which makes it so much easier because it's one pattern piece. And then you turn down the top and put elastic in it. I like that. I could probably do that in not very long. Pants go pretty quick anyway. So the only part to figure out will be the sizes because I have a son-in-law that is 6'5". And, I have a daughter that is 5'3" or 2, I think. I don't know. So we got the whole gamut. So yeah, we'll see. And that is all of the sewing in the life. And so I'm going to leave it there and move into a little bit of Jesus. So if that's not for you, then please accept my thanks for being here. Thanks for spending a little bit of your time with me. I love spending time with you. And I hope you'll come back and subscribe and do all the things. So I'll see you next time. So if you did stick around for a little bit of Jesus, I want to share a couple of things with you. First is one of my little scripture cards. I pulled it out and it says, it's from Romans 10:17. It says, so faith comes from hearing, and hearing through the word of Christ. So faith comes from, someone shares the gospel with you. That's where faith comes from. You can't believe if you haven't heard. This is what Paul said in the book of Romans. He was writing to the Romans, and so this is what Paul said, the Apostle Paul. I wanted to know what Jesus said. I wanted to hear it straight from the source. And I came up with Matthew 10, verses 29 through 31. I'm going to read this to you from the Message. What's the price of a pet canary? Some loose change, right? And God cares what happens to it even more than you do. He pays greater attention even to you, down to the last detail, even numbering the hairs on your head. So don't be intimidated by all this bully talk. You're worth more than 1,000,000 canaries. The whole context of that chapter is Jesus talking about what to do when he sends the apostles out into the area to preach the gospel. And he's saying, listen, you're not going to be treated very well sometimes. There are going to be people who really hate you and say bad things about you and, bully you. And so what he's trying to do there is just telling them, these bullies, they can't do anything to your soul. They can't grab you out of the hand of God. No, not going to happen. Because God cares about you this much, more than a pet canary, and knows the number of hairs on your head. So do not be worried. It's like the big God standing behind you when you're dealing with the bullies in front of you. That's what he meant by that. So listen, the holidays are coming. They're almost upon us, and we're going to see family, we're going to see friends, and people in general, and some of them are not going to want to hear about any of that, even if you want to talk about it. So get ready. Just get ready. And be ready to give an answer to anyone who asks you about your faith, and be ready to tell them about the gospel. Tell them the gospel, because, like Paul said, unless they hear it, they're not going to have that faith. That faith comes from hearing. And then when they hear, if they believe, they get the same thing we have, which is that glorious relationship with Jesus. So, okay, I will leave it there for now. And thank you so much for being here, spending time with me, liking, subscribing. Kind of had it fitted in there somewhere. But yeah, I got to tell you, I care so much for all of you. And I appreciate you being here. And so thanks for watching. And I will see you next time.